Hi everyone, this is Mindy Egan for Concord and Ninth. Thanks for joining me today. I'm introducing the Blooms for You stamp set and dies. This is a large 6x8 stamp set, and this is probably one of the easiest layering stamp sets you will ever find. It has some individual flowers, it has the layering portion, and then these large bold sentiments. For the floral images, you have your layering stamps at the top labeled Step 1 and Step 2, and then you have individual flowers at the bottom that match up with that layering portion. And of course, Concord and Ninth has provided you with a stepped-out instruction on the back of the packaging. The coordinating die set has a separate thank you sentiment that you can use separately on its own or together with the stamp set, and then dies for the individual flowers included on the stamp set. We'll take a closer look at all of these sentiments and images all stamped out. So down here at the bottom, we have that layering image stamped out, which I will show you how to do in just a moment. Then we have the individual flower pieces. Now those little dots there in the various sizes are for the centers of your flowers. We have 3 little dot clusters. That's great for just adding some detail. And then we have sentiments for I love you, thank you, or celebrate you. And that you is really fun because it has the solid sentiment and then a shadow look to it. For the coordinating dies and that sentiment die set, you can see at the top there, it has that beautiful scripty thank you. The U has a beautiful etched detail in it that is great for using on its own, or I'll show you how to layer it up with the stamped version. And then I went ahead and stamped out all the florals. There's probably some extra on here because I have a whole package that I just kind of went ahead and stamped out. Now this card I created, I did the thank you in white cardstock, but I have another YOU die cut from gold mirror cardstock that I did for kind of some offsetting, like a shadow layer, and then that flower swag towards the bottom of the card front. This card is probably one of my favorites where I really mixed and matched the layering image with the individual die cut flowers. Now it's hard to see in the card here in video, but those are layered up and popped up with dimension. I'm going to show you how I did that in just a moment. This card is a completely one layer card. Everything is stamped out, and we're going to do this example, but I wanted to show you that those individual flowers can line up over your stamp layering image. So you can change up the color of your flowers, change up the center of your flowers, lots of customization for that. Now, if you stamped out the word you, the YOU, you can take the die cut letters and add those over the top for even more dimension. In this card example, I did nectar and grapefruit ink, and then I used avocado ink for my leaves in the center of the flowers. So I grabbed Step 1 off of the stamp set. You're going to notice there's like a little arrow that is part of the stamp. That's going to tell you which way to put your stamp on your cardstock. So you want the arrow to be facing up. Now I have a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock in my Misty tool. I lined it up so the left edge of that stamp was kind of straight or in line with the edge of my cardstock. I stamped that first layer in Tide Pool ink, and then I rotated my cardstock, and I'm going to stamp this again in that same Tide Pool ink. So this is Step 1. Now we're going to bring in Step 2, same thing. It has kind of that arrow that's part of the stamp. That's going to help tell you which way to put your stamp so it's always in the right orientation. Line it up over our first layer. Now I used the stem of the flower in the top left-hand corner and the centers of my flower to get that in place. It's very easy to line up. And then I'm inking this up in avocado ink. Now you may not like that it has a green center, which is where it comes in handy that you can stamp out those individual flowers to customize the flower color and also the center color. Now once again, I didn't move the stamp set, so I can go ahead, turn my cardstock, ink that up once more and stamp that down. So now we have the top and the bottom layer or portion of our card front done. Now I'm going to take the word thank and I'm going to place that underneath that first layer so I kind of have it tilted to match up with the angle that those flowers are stamped. And for the YOU, I grabbed the shadow layer. I thought it was easiest to stamp the shadow layer first. So I lined all that up, picked that up with the Door of the Misty. And for this one, I am inking it up in Juniper ink, which is actually one of my favorite color combinations is the Tide Pool and Juniper. Then I'll bring in the more solid of the YOU, line that up, and you may need to test it a couple times so you can get a good idea of how that is going to line up. Mine was about the second time I kind of figured out exactly where it needs to go and how close, but I did find it pretty easy to line up. I just personally thought it was easiest to start with the shadow layer. Now this one I did ink up in Tide Pool ink, but of course you can mix and match your colors. So there we have a really quick and easy one layer card that is absolutely gorgeous. Looks like it took a ton of work when it really didn't. I love that we can either create the one layer card or die cut out those additional flowers to layer up our card front. And that is a closer look at the Blooms for You stamp and die set.